Greetings! Welcome to Faulkner Fixes All. Today we're going to adjust a rear fender on a 1973 Schwinn Suburban in dazzling opaque blue. Only a few years for the opaque blue Suburban. Maybe 4 or 5 years they've let this color be happening for the Suburban. I can check on that, but there was only, especially with the Breeze, there was only like 2 years with the opaque blue Breeze, but popular color in the 70s. You don't see it a lot nowadays. Anyway, Schwinn Suburban, run-of-the-mill. This is Schwinn's go-to bike for just getting things done. 5-speed Suburban with chain guard. They got a little cheap and they just put a little star there instead of the writing. But the Suburban writing is right here. You know, it's got the decal. Anyway, this is a bike that's been in the collection for quite a while. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. Although I did rob some pedals off of it and some brake shoes, but that's another story. Okay, so a viewer was having issues with his Suburban fender, and I said I would just take one out of the basement and adjust the rear fender because his is rubbing after replacing the tire. We thought it might be the tire wasn't seated right or the rim wasn't seated right in the frame, but it looks like it is, and his fender stay is probably loosened up. But we're going to do a quick go through about how to deal with this. Okay, so first thing you check is the wheel straight in the frame? Yeah, you know, it looks pretty good. 1/4 inch there, 1/4 inch there. You know, it's in there. Not the truest wheel, and it's not the best tire in the world, but it's in there. All right, so it's straight there, even here. The washer's on the right side. The retaining washer's on the outside of the frame. It's all the way, it's locked all the way in against the derailleur. Retaining washer's on the outside. That's good. Everything looks good there. Okay, so, we look down here, and it's kind of rubbing on the tire nibs, and it's really close. Alright, so what's the first thing to do? Well, first thing to do is to kind of wiggle this around to see if your bolts have loosened. So, is the fender loose? No, it's tight. Okay, so what's going on? Is this really bent? No, it's got a little bend in it, but it's not the end of the world. Alright, so I think what we'll do is we want the fender to go that way. So we're going to loosen this up. Oh, before we do that, we'll do a quick overview about what's going on. This is a Schwinn fender stay for Suburban, for any 27-inch bike, really. The front is a little different. The front bolts on with a smaller eye right there. So this is a rear. And on the rear, you know, they give you a little room for adjustment. You know, like this is a 1/4 bolt. It's obviously not the right one, but it's the right size diameter that Schwinn would use. And they give you a little adjustment. It doesn't look like much, but that much would be amplified at the end of this when you need it to sway over and get away from the wheel. So that's actually a lot of adjustment. And don't be afraid to take that up, you know. So we're going to loosen this up. Okay, so that's loose. And now, I have to put you back on the head cam here. Still looking for that camera assistant. Okay. So now, we got that loose. So there's a fair amount of adjustment there. But you know what? We're going to go the step further. And we're going to loosen this one up too. And if you have a Schwinn Suburban, chances are, unless it's a really fancy, like Japanese model, or I think they got kind of fancy on some of the really fancy when they weren't made in Chicago anymore. But if you have a Chicago Suburban, most likely it's going to be bolted on the back of the frame, just like this. Okay, so we're going to push this in. That one's loose. Give it a wiggle. And we're going to push that in, which gave us the clearance we need here. And snug that up a little bit. We'll put the final tighten on in a minute. Okay, so that gave us the room we need. Just that one little adjustment. It doesn't look like a lot, but that bigger hole in this stay is slightly bigger than 1/4 inch. This doesn't look like it gives you a lot of adjustment, but it really is amplified at the end near the edge of the fender, and it gives you enough room to pull the thing away and push it in the right direction. And right now we got a fat finger clearance, a little fatter here, but what we'll do is we'll pull this out a little bit and tighten that one up too, and it'll be almost perfect. Okay, we'll pull this out a little. So I'm yanking on this a little bit here. Okay. Okay, good. And we'll put the final tighten on it right now. So we're looking pretty good. I mean, it's not exactly in the middle because this is bent. This fender stay took a hit at some point in its life. Slight bend there. But it's pretty close to being in the middle. It's not rubbing anymore. And now we're going to put the final on it. And to do that, we're going to use a flathead screwdriver and hold the edge. And hold one side. And put the whammy on it. These things loosen up over time, and sometimes you don't even notice it. You hit a bump or something, and you're on your way home, and you hear this rubbing, and you're like, oh no, the wheel loosened up. No, it's just a fender. Okay, so it's still off a little bit. And we've adjusted everything, and it's still off a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press against this and pull. This is kind of a last resort thing. I pulled that out, and look at that. It's just about right in the middle. This tire needs to be reseated. I'll show you what's going on with this tire real quick. It's a reproduction tire, and it's been sitting in the basement, and right here I need to deflate it, put some armor all in there, and pop it back out. You can see it's good right here. You can see the tiny little line. But when you get over here, the tire is actually in a little bit. And when you spin it, you can see it going whump, whump. Right there. Right along here. So what I'll do is I'll deflate it, put some armor all on there, and pump it up really a lot. And it'll kind of snap back into place. This front one's pretty good. There's no big whumps on that one. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. While you're at it, it's a good time to take a look at these other ones. Like there's a little bolt in here, it's like 9mm. And you might want to just reach in there with a 9mm and a flathead goes on the other side. And just give that a tighten. And then down by the brakes, this rivet sometimes loosens up right there. And there's nothing you can really do about it except repound the rivet. But make sure that's tight, obviously, for your brakes. And it's good to actually put brake shoes in, too. And pedals. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful. Yeah, don't be afraid to bend these a little bit. Like this one is bent. And don't be afraid to use these adjustments. They give you enough. You know, doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't seem like it's enough. But that's actually quite a bit when you start moving the fender around from side to side. That probably equals about a fat 3/8 of an inch of making this part go where you want it to go. Okay. So yeah, hope that's been helpful. And make sure you tighten those up pretty good. Oh, and one more thing. If you use a longer 1/4 inch, bolt here, one that's not Schwinn, it interferes with the gears. So make sure this one's the right size, the right width. Otherwise, it's going to scrape on the gears when you change the gears. Okay, have a good day. Faulkner Fixes All. Subscribe, leave me a terrible comment, whatever you need to do.